Without a doubt, the movie about the child-eating killer clown from Derry was one of the most terrifying productions of recent years. But amidst all the scares and chills delivered by it, Chapter 1, did you manage to catch all the hidden messages and tiny details deliberately scattered throughout the film? For instance, there are several references to other iconic films from the 80s and 90s. When the movie begins, we see Georgie and Bill talking in the bedroom. Right behind the older brother, there's a poster for the movie Gremlins, which was released in 1984. Later, as Georgie leaves the bedroom, we notice another poster on the closet door. This time, it's from the 1988 comedy horror film Beetlejuice, hinting at the story's timeline set between 1988 and 1989. Interestingly, in 2024, a sequel titled Beetlejuice was released, starring Jenna Ortega, the rising star of Wednesday and the modern-day queen of horror. Another nod to something real is the poster on Ben's bedroom door when the Losers Club visits. We see that Ben is a fan of NKOTB, an acronym for New Kids on the Block, one of the first ever pop boy bands, formed in 1986. Fun fact, Hollywood actor Mark Wahlberg was a member of this band. These small details are just the beginning of our list of hidden secrets in it. Want your mind blown? Stick with us until the end of this video. The 2017 It film doesn't only reference old movies and bands. One of the most infamous serial killers in US history also makes a subtle appearance. This occurs in the scene where the ever-sarcastic Richie becomes Pennywise's victim of the moment. When Richie looks back, he sees a clown on stage. Upon closer inspection, we can see that the clown's outfit closely resembles that of John Wayne Gacy, a notorious serial killer from the 1970s known as the Killer Clown. Gacy performed at charity events and children's hospitals as a clown named Pogo, whose name coincidentally also starts with a P, just like Pennywise. This chilling connection happens when the Losers Club discusses what Pennywise might really be. Throughout the conversation, the same clown can be seen in the background several times. What's terrifying is that the person portraying the clown on stage was none other than Bill Skarsgård, the actor playing Pennywise. This suggests that it was spying on the kids the entire time, feeding on their fear, which is exactly what gives it its power. Now things get even more sinister. In the scene where the Losers Club explores the abandoned house, Richie picks up a beer bottle and tries to use it as a weapon, unsuccessfully. If you pause the scene at just the right moment, you'll notice that the label reads Bob Gray's. In the book, this is one of its aliases. Before revealing itself as Pennywise, it introduced itself to some victims as Robert Bob Gray. But the most sinister part is yet to come. The name Pennywise wasn't chosen randomly to represent the demon behind the clown. Its inspiration comes from a real-life case of a serial killer and cannibal named Albert Fish, who murdered and consumed children between the 1910s and 1930s in the United States. Just like Pennywise, who also preys on children, Fish used fake names to avoid identification, and one of those names was Bob Gray. This is the exact same name used by Pennywise to sign the letters he sent to the parents and relatives of his victims after they had been murdered and cannibalized. The film's director, Argentine Andy Muschietti, had the idea from the very beginning to give Pennywise a dual gaze. This becomes evident during the scene where he meets Georgie in the rain. If you're brave enough to take a closer look, you'll notice that one of his eyes is fixed directly on the boy, who's about to become his victim. Meanwhile, the other eye is staring straight at us, the audience, creating an unsettling fear, as if Pennywise is confronting us directly with his sinister gaze. What's even more fascinating about this detail is that no special effects were used to achieve it. Bill Skarsgård, the actor who played the clown, naturally had this bizarre ability in his repertoire of creepy talents. Trust us, it is packed with unimaginable secrets. And if you love a good movie based on a Stephen King story, leave a comment below saying clown as a nod to Pennywise. Still talking about Pennywise, if you have the courage to watch the movie again, you'll notice that at no point in the production does the clown blink his eyes. This is likely because he might not even have eyelids. After all, he's not human. He's a monster, but it was also a deliberate choice by the directors to make the character as inhuman as possible, given that he is, in fact, a demon. Speaking of references to 1980s movies, we see Mike hiding with his bike from the bullies tormenting him, and we can spot two blockbuster films being shown at the Derry movie theater. First, we see Tim Burton's Batman, released in 1989, the same one where Jack Nicholson delivers one of the best Joker performances ever, only second, in our humble opinion, to the unforgettable Heath Ledger. The second movie being shown is the first Lethal Weapon 2, also from 1989. Honestly, 1989 seems like it was a fantastic year for movie lovers. It really brings back some nostalgia. Those were the days. And this isn't the only reference to movies we see in Derry's theater. Later in the film, when Bill goes to find Richie at the arcade, which is located in the same spot as the theater, the fifth Nightmare on Elm Street movie is also on display. The Dream Child. We've got to say this movie really fits the tone of it. In the following sequence, we can partially see that the arcade game Richie is playing is from Capcom. Shortly after, it looks like the game is a version of Street Fighter. In addition, in the background, we can spot another arcade game, Rampage. The game was also adapted into a movie in 2018, just 1 year after the release of It Chapter 1, and it starred none other than superstar Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Going back to the scene where we see Mike entering the alley in Derry, where the Losers Club, our protagonists, often meet throughout the movie. The first time we see this alley is in the scene where Pennywise frightens Mike by simulating the sounds of people who died in a fire from the past. What's interesting about this alley is that it features a mural showing a man laying lifeless on the ground. ground. This is a reference to one of the stories in Stephen King's book, where criminals known as the Bradley Gang were shot by Derry's townsfolk back in 1929, exactly 60 years before the events of the movie. What a brilliant reference that even the most hardcore fans of it might not have caught. I don't know about you, but it is definitely one of the best horror films of the last decade. If you think so too, click that subscribe button right now. It makes sense, right? We already agree on this, don't you think? Still talking about book references, but this time to one of the Grimm brothers' tales. You probably remember the scene where Beverly was in a trance, and our heroic Ben managed to bring her back with a romantic kiss. This scene is indirectly referenced in another part of the movie, this time in Beverly's room. On her desk, you can spot a book containing the Grimm brothers' tale The Frog Prince, where the princess kisses the frog to turn him back into his normal form. But now I'm confused. Was Beverly the frog and Ben the prince who saved her with a kiss? Now let's move on to a scene featuring another member of the Losers Club. When Stanley is in the synagogue, his father sends him to his office. On the wall, you can see a painting of a woman dressed in black with a distorted appearance. This is a reference to the 2013 horror movie Mama, written and directed by Andy Muschietti, who also directed both It movies in 2017 and 2019. And if you're wondering, yes, Mama is just as terrifying as it sounds. This one is for Stephen King fans once again. In another scene, we see Bill entering the room of his now deceased younger brother. While there, the protagonist picks up a turtle made out of Lego pieces. The turtle is Maturin, the supreme being of the universe where Derry's story takes place, and a longtime nemesis of Pennywise. And when we say long time, we're talking about millions of years. Yeah, the clown makeup doesn't really hint at just how ancient the monster behind the disguise is. But trust me, it's the oldest thing you've ever seen. The movie also pays homage to other works by the master of suspense. In one scene, Eddie is wearing a t-shirt featuring a car with sharp teeth glaring forward. This is a reference to Stephen King's novel Christine, which was turned into a movie in 1983 and tells the story of a killer car. Okay, let's dive into some of the bloodiest moments in the movie. If you're too young or not a fan of gory scenes, maybe close your eyes for this one. When Henry, the oldest psychopathic kid at Bill's school, gets home, the TV program he's watching starts interacting with him, encouraging him to kill his sleeping father, which he does with his pocket knife. Shortly after, we see Pennywise himself inside the television. But the real detail here is next to the clown, a zombie girl in a dark blue dress. She's likely one of Pennywise's previous victims, adding a gruesome tone to his ability to psychologically manipulate the residents of Derry. But she's not the only dead child hanging out with Pennywise on the program. There's also a boy in front of the zombie girl, resembling another undead figure. And in front of Pennywise, there's a girl in a white t-shirt, completely drenched in blood, another one of his victims. This girl closely resembles Betty, the missing girl the kids encounter in the abandoned house. She was already dead by that time, but Pennywise used her image to lure and torment the children. Finally, just near Pennywise's shoulder, we can spot yet another boy with a cadaverous face who hadn't appeared in earlier scenes. This is undeniably chilling. Of course, we can't forget to mention one of the coolest Easter eggs in the movie. Returning to the scene where the Losers Club is inside the abandoned house, there's that iconic shot of the room full of clown dolls. One doll in particular stands out. It's a replica of the original Pennywise, portrayed in the 1990 It miniseries. This self-reference was a very cool addition. That's it for this video, but if you love blowing your mind with hidden details and Easter eggs, this is the perfect place for you. We've got 2 amazing videos linked for you to click on, watch, and best of all, keep hanging out with us.